Shalom Uvracha. The Mishnah in Rabbi says there are two types of disputes, two types of machlokas. One of them is l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven, and the other is not l'shem shamayim, not for the sake of heaven. The paradigm, the example of a dispute for the sake of heaven is Hillel and Shammai, and says the Mishnah that type of dispute will always remain, meaning both sides have some grasp, some aspect of the truth. A machlokas, a dispute which is not l'shem shamayim, is Korach and his assembly against Moshe Rabbeinu. And that dispute will not remain for eternity. There's one side that will be destroyed, will be eliminated from history. And the question is, how do we know? How can we discern what is a machlokas, a dispute for the sake of heaven, and what is not for the sake of heaven? We are not judges of what's inside a person's heart, in a person's intention. That is revealed to God, but is not revealed to us. And therefore, how can we know? How can we judge which is a dispute for the sake of heaven and which is not? Perhaps a yardstick for defining or for discerning the difference can be learned from our parasha. What does Korach and his assembly say? What do they say? They say, Kol ha'eda kulam kadoshim. The entire assembly is holy. Uv'tocham Hashem, and Hashem is among them. And therefore, why, Moshe and Aaron, why are you setting yourself above the entire congregation? Hashem is among us all. And yet, when Moshe Rabbeinu comes to decide between the sides, and he davens, he prays to God to make that decision between them, he says something else. He says that if they will all die a natural death, and they shall perish in a natural way, then lo Hashem shelachani, then God did not send me, then my entire mission to the Jewish people is false. Says Moshe Rabbeinu, this isn't a dispute about the holiness that is inherent within the Jewish people. This is a dispute about my basic mission to the Jews. Do I have legitimacy or do I not have legitimacy? And the Gemara tells us in Sanhedrin that for eternity, Korach from beneath the ground makes the declaration, Moshe emes, Moshe is true, v'torasei emes, and his Torah is true. Meaning, that was the dispute. Is Moshe and the entire Torah, are they true or are they false? Hiding behind these lofty, elevated words of Kol ha'eda kulam kadoshim, the entire congregation is holy and God is among them. Hiding behind those words is a sinister message. And that message is that Moshe is false and his entire Torah is false. And that is why this issue, this dispute between Korach and Moshe Rabbeinu is such a profound dispute that we need Korach and Dasan ve'Aviram to be swallowed up by the earth as if they have no right to exist. Because what they're really saying is that Moshe is false and the Torah is false. But that's what Moshe reveals. They don't say that. They say lofty words. All of the assembly is holy. But hiding behind those words is this terrible, sinister, destructive intention that Moshe is false and the entire Torah is false. And maybe that's a basic yardstick for understanding which machlokas, which dispute is for the sake of heaven and which isn't. And that is, are they really speaking to each other? Or are the sides saying one thing, but their intention is something else entirely? It's hidden, it's concealed beneath a veneer of shiny and elevated and lofty words. But hiding behind that is something terrible, a totally different intention. And nowadays, we're so used to this. We're used to this doublespeak of saying one thing, but meaning something else. It's prominent perhaps in politics, but it's present everywhere. And that is a sign that the machlokes is not l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven. If you mean something for the sake of heaven, if God can have a place in the dispute, in the sides that are disputants, that are arguing with one another, then each side brings himself to the table with sincerity, in a candid way. He says what he means, and he means what he says. But if he isn't doing that, if he's hiding behind lofty words, but he means something else, and that meaning of something else, you have to work to uncover it, but it's there beneath the surface, then that's a dispute which is not l'shem shamayim. Because if the person isn't even bringing himself, then surely there's no place for God. There's no place for shem shamayim to inhere, to be present in his words. And we begin by saying what we mean and meaning what we say, exactly what Korach did not do. And halavai that all our words should be true and sincere and on the table. Then we can bring ourselves to the table and engage in true communication with the other person. That way our own disputes can be l'shem shamayim, that soifam liiskayim, that there's an element of truth that we're able to uncover, that we're able to reveal. We should all have a wonderful Shabbos.